They say Uber gives you the freedom to work your own schedule, but what kind of freedom is that if you're working more than 60 hours a week and somehow are still homeless?
Xbox, Twitter, Uber,
Postmates,
Netflix, MoviePass,
Google,
eBay,
DoorDash,
Apple, Amazon, Airbnb,
The Apptrepreneur. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and if you are new to this channel, click that subscribe button, ring that bell for almost daily uploads of news on Uber, Lyft, Postmates, DoorDash, apps in general, including the streaming wars. Now, I'm going to talk about something that, I have critics out there who claim that I do not have the right to talk about these stories because I do not currently drive. Whenever I tell people I don't think it's worth their time, that's because of personal experience. I used to drive, and I was driving when it was like $2.75 a mile, something like that. And as the rates kept going down, at one point, I did the math. I calculated the time, the money I was getting, what I would have to put into Uber and Lyft to make a real honest living at it. And I decided to put my efforts towards other things like YouTube and e-commerce and even writing, because I do a lot of freelance work for newspapers and online publications. And yet, people tell me, like, you know what, I don't have the right to talk about those things because I'm not currently driving. And there are people out there who are making a good living out of it. And, that's true. There are people who are making a living out of it. But here's what I have been arguing. Because one of the biggest arguments that come up is, like, they still like to do rideshare because, hey, it's flexible. It gives them the ability to get on and off whenever they want. My question is, what kind of freedom do you have if you're driving like 60-hour a week and you're homeless? Like this guy. And this is not the norm, by the way. I totally acknowledge that. There are scenarios where you could be driving 60 to 70 hours a week, be making $2,000 a week, and have a place to live. It's not everyone. That's a rarity too. Most of the time, I feel you read far more stories about, like, this guy. And this person is Gary Branson. The article opens with him saying, "Welcome to my bedroom. Cars drive by at 50 miles per hour a few feet away, but I do have a lovely view." That's what you call making the best out of a bad situation and having a sense of humor about it. Anyway, Gary's Prius, immaculate inside and out, is both his home and his workplace. He is an Uber driver putting in some 60 hours a week behind the wheel to ferry passengers around San Francisco. Late at night, he drives to a location where it's legal to park, reclines the navigator seat, wraps his burly 6-foot 2-inch frame in a red plaid blanket, and tries to block out the traffic noise to get some shut-eye. He figured out with practical ways to cope. Joining a gym for showers, neatly stowing duffels with food and clothes in his trunk, keeping most possessions in a storage unit, frequently vacuuming the car, installing 2 inverters to directly plug in his laptop or electric razor. But it's a hard life. Yeah, no kidding. So here's some pictures of him. Here's him in his car. Well, he's getting out of his car. He's probably in this car the whole time. But yeah, that's... Can you imagine? Like, he is literally living in his car. He's working in the car is his home. Like, that doesn't sound like a good opportunity to me. That sounds pretty bad. So anyway, it looks like I'm making it work, but I'm still a homeless person. He choked up when he asks whether he gets lonely. His situation underscores what critics called ride-hailing's poverty wages and precarious nature. Although he earns about $1,200 a week, averaging $20 an hour. And by the way, this is your sign right here. That just because you put in 60 hours a week does not mean you're going to join that BS 2K club. Like the 2K club, first of all, again, as explained in another video, that is a meaningless honor. It is an absolute meaningless honor. But hey, if you can make it, that's great. It's not guaranteed even at 60 hours a week. And unless that's after Uber's cut. So maybe he is making like, no, that can't be right. He earns about $1,200 a week after Uber's cut. Work expenses such as gas, oil changes, new tires, and other maintenance, traffic tickets, car payments, car insurance, cell phone bill, and self-employment taxes eat a big chunk of his income. So actually, he might be making close to $2,000 a week, but he's doing all these things, and so therefore he can't keep it. Then there are unexpected car crises, such as when his engine and battery conked out, costing him $3,000, or when his car got rear-ended. 2 weeks ago, he drove over a rough patch of road and ended up paying $1,140 to repair the front suspension. Personal expenses add up too. Food costs a lot more when you don't have a place to cook. Yeah, because here's the thing. Like, people don't even think about food costs so much. Like, I'm eating in a lot more. Partly because I got to stop eating fast food. I started, like, shedding weight and stuff like that. And now me and Katie are actually enjoying cooking together. But when I was thinking about eating, how I ate out like 2 or 3 times a day, like that was usually $15 to $20 a day. Well, you do $10 a day, that's $300 a month. You do $20 a day, that's $600 a month. So you do $30 a day, which you eat 3 times a day on fast food prices and just prices in general. Yeah, you can be spending a lot of money on food. So, as Uber has cut rates and bonuses in recent years, Branson's hopes of digging himself out of this hole have dwindled. He's pinning some hopes now on California's AB5 law, which could make drivers into employees. Governor Gavin Newsom signed it Wednesday after it passed the Senate and Assembly. Uber and Lyft, however, plan to fight reclassification in the courts and through a 2020 ballot initiative, instead seeking a new worker category called network drivers, who are independent contractors with wage guarantees and some benefits. Branson doesn't think becoming an employee in itself will do much for his finances, but it's what comes next that he's counting on. Step 1 is us becoming employees, he said. Step 2 is that we can form a union and begin to negotiate a more reasonable percentage. Uber's cut is generally 30%, but he and other drivers say that's too much, and that it sometimes takes much more. Oh, it very, very much, they take much more in most cases. And Uber, of course, they said they couldn't comment on a specific driver situation and reiterated past statements about improving their lot. Well, you can improve their lot by paying them better, Uber. He doesn't need to be living in his car. He doesn't need to be making 60 cents a mile. You could pay him $2 a mile. Just charge the customer that $2. They were paying it before. They'll pay it still. So, and it's impossible to say how many ride-hailing drivers are unhoused. Some are migrant drivers commuting long distances from far-flung corners of California to San Francisco, where driving is more lucrative. They bed down in cars with friends or crammed into cheap motels to drive long shifts for a few days before returning home. A Chronicle investigation found that almost 10% of San Francisco's drivers fit this category. But others are like Branson. They have nowhere to go. They live in their cars because it's so expensive in the Bay Area, and there are so many unexpected expenses that comes along with driving. You know, I know that, and this is not to make light of a situation, it's not. If I were in that situation, I would personally hope, I think it would actually be like kind of like a nice thing if you could drive in other states. Like at that point, it's like if you're going to be living in your car the whole time, I'd use Uber to travel the world, go across the nation, see America, and use Uber money to pay for it, to get around. But yeah, just sleeping in your car in one area, and just that doesn't sound like much of a life. Although, again, he's trying to make the best of it. He really is. And that's exactly what Branson does. He tries to keep $1,000 in savings at all times because that's the deductible on Uber's collision insurance. Well, dude, you should definitely have more than that in your savings. I would hope you'd have more in your savings just so that it would show that you were able to save for a house or maybe a place to live, which might not be possible with Uber's rates. He's afraid to drive for Lyft because it's a $2,500 deductible is too big a risk. I think they have lowered that, though. With a shaved head and a neatly trimmed salt and pepper mustache and goatee, Branson, 48, says he looks like a Viking. He has a sardonic wit. I might as well crack jokes while I can, he said, and hopes to turn his gift of gab into a podcast telling wild and wacky stories about driving for Uber. Branson, I'm gonna, or Gary, can I call you Gary? Yeah, I'm gonna have an offer for you on that one if you stick this out till the end. I don't know if you're able to see this or not. And this is a good article. I'm going to show the whole thing below. He was the son of a Baptist preacher. He spent 9 years selling residential solar systems in Stockton. Very interesting. He went through a rough patch after divorce, wrecked up his credit, ran up IRS bills, and burned through a lot of money helping an ill friend, whom he still partially supports. And, you know, he got evicted. And this is actually why a lot of people, I believe, although he would probably tell a story better, probably end up doing this. I think the people who do this probably, they've just got a lot of bad circumstances. And so it forces them to be on the road like this. And they have to take this job. It's kind of what they're stuck with. And I don't like that Uber exploits them. And they just exploit them. But hey, tell you what, Gary, here's what I want to do for you. If you come across this and if you want to get in contact with me, I don't know how to get in contact with you, so I just have to put this out there for you. I would like, you said you like podcasts. I would like to invite you on a live stream, and you and me can talk about what it's like to drive, to live a life like this. I'd like to actually ask you a lot of questions about what it's like being an Uber driver, because you're right, I don't live this life. I've never even come close to driving like this. So I'm fascinated to know what it's like and what your daily feelings are. And I'd also and I'm going to talk to other rideshare drivers, like probably Dustin. Maybe I'll team up with Dustin on this. We'd like to see if you would, I know you don't want to be a beggar, but maybe if you would be willing to set up a GoFundMe account, maybe me and Dustin and maybe, I don't know who else would help, but maybe other fellow rideshare drivers wouldn't mind promoting your GoFundMe and maybe helping you get a little money so that maybe you can get you a place to live or something. Maybe at least a little bit more money in the bank so that Lyft is also an option. You know, if you're going to drive 60 hours, driving for both is definitely a bonus. So yeah, Gary, if you're out there and if you're watching this, hopefully you'll reach out to me somehow. Put in the email address below that you're Gary from this video and you'd like to talk. I will try to reach out to you. We'll see what we can do. But I'd like to have you on this channel and talk about you on a podcast. Just a little bit of fair warning. This video might be up when I'm on my honeymoon. So if it takes a few days for me to get back to you, that's what it is. I just haven't decided yet. So sorry, but I would like to talk to you and help you out as much as I can. So anyway, that's where we're going to leave that one. If anyone knows who Gary is, please pass this along to him. And comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. And we won't do the usual pimping out for the other services, but just flame responsibly, stay safe out there if you have to drive a lot. Have a good one.